All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Can everybody hear me? I see Melinda. I see Sarah. I see Christina. I see Mike. And Mike even typed up a little smiley face. Love that. Just hope everybody can hear me. I'm using my new computer for this tonight, for this Facebook Live. You can hear me. Yes, great. Everybody can hear me. That helps, I suppose. Lois, thank you. Yeah, I am doing this on my new, what is this, MacBook Pro. And hello, Jill. Hello, Dorothy. Sarah, Charlie. How's everybody doing tonight? Jill, yeah, fancy, I guess so, Jill. And we're going to be talking about that here in a little bit. But yes, MacBook Pro. Hello, Christina. Just the smallest one. I think that this is, hello, Rachel. I think this is the cheapest Mac laptop that you can get. It's an actual laptop, has an actual keyboard. You know, it folds open, whatever, and so it's not, an iPad or anything like that, because I like a real, keyboard and all of that stuff. But so I'm doing, this is the first time I used this. I just got this last Friday, got shipped to me. So I'm trying it out, see if it's going to work for this as well. Hello, Angela and Rachel and Dee Dee. How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you all for joining in tonight. I'm wearing a KISS shirt. I got this shirt when they played with Def Leppard here in Tampa back in 2014. I think it was. So there you go. Has like all the concert dates on the back. I was telling one of my friends recently, it seems that as I get older, my tastes are getting harder. I don't know why that is. I thought that by this time at 47 years old, I'd be listening to Barry Manilow and Neil Diamond. Not the case. Not the case at all. It's actually going the opposite direction. Who knew? But I thank you for everybody. Hello, Kelly. How are you doing tonight? How was everything in Pennsylvania? I hope you're doing well. Wanted to start. Love the shirt. Crystal likes the shirt. Thank you. I'd like to get some more. I have a couple Iron Maiden shirts. I only have one KISS shirt, and I have two Def Leppard shirts, I think. And Mandy, welcome tonight. Mandy's has a couple books headed her direction. I just got them shipped out today, so Mandy, be looking for those sometime next week. Christina says she saw Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie. I'd be all right in Montana, but never saw the rest of KISS. KISS was a great show. So let's we don't want to turn this into a music. I just thought I always show you what shirt I'm wearing. Where I want to start tonight real quickly, being that this was brought up in the group today. Well, I brought it up. It's a listener emailed me, regarding audio issues. I just want to make sure that I know all of you really like Unfound. You like the job that I'm doing. I want you to know I deeply appreciate it. But I'm not the type of guy who feels like my butt needs to be kissed all the time. All right, if you are having some issue with audio or downloading or anything like that, I want you to tell me, okay? I'm not saying I'm going to be able to do anything about it, but I want to know. Hello, Jimmy. Thanks for joining me tonight. Because a listener told me, she is listening to it in her car. She's listening on her iPhone 6S. She's using USB, and she's saying that I sound really loud and my guest's volume is very low. That is not, of course, the way that I mix the show. I try to get, granted, when the file starts out, I am much louder than my guest, and then I try to make everything as close to possible as I can. It can be difficult because my voice pretty much stays steady, but theirs, depending on cell phone reception and how close they are to the phone, on and on, it can go up, it can go down, and I try to even it as much as I can. So I don't like finding out like months down the road. Well, you know, Ed, I had this problem like months ago with the audio. Just tell me. Like I said, I don't know what's going on, and I have to tell you that it's hard leveling everything out for all of the multitude of ways that people are going to listen to the program. They listen in their car, they listen on the treadmill, they listen on the subway, they listen at home, they listen with headphones, they listen with their car speakers, they listen with their phone speakers, you know, earbuds. It's hard to make everything, you know, absolutely 100% correct for everybody. Jimmy, Andrea, thanks for joining. Sarah says she's had no problems, Becca, and I appreciate that. And Diane, Kristen, Stephen. Good, there we go. A Leechburg High graduate. Stephen tuning in tonight. Good to see you, Steve. Going to be playing a tournament in a few weeks. Going to be wearing my KPMG hat, Steve. So I just want you to know that those things are important to me. That, you know, and I don't get a lot of, complaints. And, you know, in an interview show, being that, you know, myself, if I can speak for another program, Marissa over at the Vanish, where she does a lot of interviews, I'm sure that probably she gets the kind of same complaints once in a while, you know, about the audio. And we do have a more difficult time with it than programs that don't do any interviews at all and they just speak into a microphone and that's it. But it's just important that that I know, you know, if you're having any issues. I don't know in this particular listener's issues. I don't know what it is. I actually had a listener tell me that it doesn't sound right on her car radio, but she puts headphones on, it sounds fine. I'm not an audio expert. What I do know is that Unfound, when I mix it, when I save it, when I export it from GarageBand, which is a program that I use to edit all of this, and export it into an actual MP3 file that can actually be played anywhere, is that I do it at a very high bit rate. It's a very high quality file, and my shows are long anyway, so the files are fairly large, probably much larger than most of the other podcasts that any of you listen to. And I do that because I save it at 192 kilobits per second instead of the minimum 64, because I want to make sure it's high quality, because I'm doing interviews and I don't want the guest side of the conversation to be diminished in any way. So I save it at a very, very high rate. And I think what is happening is that some of these apps, they are degrading the quality of the file. So because it takes more space, it takes more space up on their computers. It takes more memory to stream at 192 kilobits per second than 64. And I think what is happening is some of these apps, maybe even iTunes itself, are degrading the streaming, and that's what's causing some audio issues. I do know that's going on with some of these apps that I've never heard of who are ripping off my RSS feed. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So there's so many things that need to be looked at if somebody's having an audio issue. Generally, there's probably not much I can do about it, but I do like to know. Good evening, everyone. Sarah, I listen on my Alpaca. Okay. Kristen, you haven't had any issues. Steven, good luck, Lefty. Thank you. Dorothy, you still sit well. As guests are not professional speakers, sometimes you can hear they are moving around a bit, but that makes it sound real, not like they memorized some answers. Thank you, Dorothy. And I do hope that you feel, all the listeners feel, is that Unfound is real as it can get. There's no editing that goes on with any of the interviews I do. In fact, you hear sometimes where they or I speak over each other. Maybe it's not the greatest etiquette, but it does. It was a joke. I listen on your Alpaca. I didn't know what you were talking about, Sarah. I didn't want to say anything. But that's pretty funny. But I think sometimes when we talk over each other and maybe interrupt each other, or, I think it adds to the realism that all of you then know that this is a real conversation you are listening to. This is not some canned thing where I'm just picking out what the person says and inserting it somewhere. And, that leads itself to kind of manipulation. There's no manipulating that goes on in my interviews. The way that you hear the interview is exactly how it's recorded. And any of my guests will tell you that. Any of them. They will tell you the exact same thing. Wow, that's exactly how the conversation went. And that's what I like to do. Angela, Google Play works great on Wi-Fi or cellular data. Angela, thank you. Maybe some people should try that. That's possible. For me, I'm always talking about hello, Stephanie. Yes, it's Wednesday, Stephanie. Thanks for joining in. I try to tell people to go to Podomatic. That's my podcast hosting site. They are the people that I pay, to have all of my files there. Without Podomatic, the show wouldn't exist. Of course, I'd go to Libsyn or somebody else. But Podomatic, although it's not as well known as other podcast hosting companies, I've never had a problem with them. Never, ever. And in fact, the reason that Unfound is even on Spotify is because of Podomatic putting in a good word for Unfound. And they have an app. I'd urge you to check it out. And in fact, I will tell you, if you want the highest quality that you can listen to of Unfound, it's on Podomatic because that is where the file is originally loaded to. They do have an app. I'm guessing I have it on my phone. I'm guessing you can get it for iPhones as well. I have an Android phone. I would suggest anybody that, is having an audio issue of some type should check Podomatics out because you're going to get the best quality because that's where the file is going to play at 192 kilobits per second. That's how when I listen to the program after I mix it, that's where I listen to it. And that shows me if the show sounds good or not. So that's always going to be the highest quality place. Everywhere else, and if you're not having a problem, maybe you want to stick with what you have. But I would urge everybody to check Podomatic out because they've been good to me. They've helped Unfound out, except for maybe a couple instances. They get back to me very quickly when I have a problem. They were very instrumental in getting the program on TribLife.com in Pittsburgh. So I can't say enough good things about them, even though I know they're not the biggest company and they're well-known, and I'm the only, I think, true crime podcast that they host. So there you go. Shauna, I listen on my iPhone and in my car through Bluetooth. It's always good quality for me. Shanna, thank you for saying that. I deeply appreciate that. Thank you. Judy, welcome. Thank you. Judy joined us, and we are in the middle talking about any audio issues that anybody may be having because it popped up as an issue today in the group. And I just wanted to talk about it for a bit and to reiterate that I know that we all get along. I love doing this program. I love interacting with all of you. I love taking your questions. I got some great questions for you here in a bit from all of you. But I don't want to get to the point where I'm not above reproach, is what I'm saying. If you have an issue with something, with file or something, you let me know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything about it, but I just don't like hearing about things like weeks down the road. If I bring something up and then somebody says, well, like 3 weeks ago I had this problem. It might be the app. It might be your Wi-Fi service. It could be a lot of things that might have anything to do with Unfound. But I don't want you to think because we all get along and I try to be responsive and everything that you can't say something to me about something. Okay? I just don't want it to be like that. All right? I'm just one of you. I just happen to be doing the program. So any issues, and I think anybody who's ever emailed me personally about something and questions, you all know that I'm very responsive. I get back to you very quickly regarding books or anything else. And in fact, I think my response rate on the Unfound page is like 98% or something. So I respond virtually to everybody if they send me a message or something. Charlie says, I listen through Apple Podcasts, no earbuds, and the sound has always been very good. Earbuds, Charlie, that's a very good point. Earbuds, I've had a couple listeners tell me they were listening on earbuds and had some problems. As soon as they stopped listening on them, audio quality got better. I'm not sure people realize that, earbuds are not, they're probably in the long term not good for your ears. And second of all, they don't give you a wide range of audio quality. And it very could well be that some people are listening, the earbuds just can't handle all of the same different frequencies that are being used during the program. That's possible. Whereas I use my headphones, which are where are my headphones? Where did my headphones go? All right, headphones, where did you go? I can't find them right at this second. That's funny. I use, real headphones that are Bluetooth headphones, and that's really how I mix the program. And I know that their quality is much better than earbuds are. And I think it's better for my ears as well. Kate, welcome. Shaney, welcome. Yeah, Charlie, earbud quality. Yes, earbud quality is... I've tried earbuds before. I just don't like them. But I don't like things in my ears, so there's that. Nicole, welcome. Andrea, earbuds are always too big for my ears. They hurt. Okay, that's maybe a good point too. I just don't like them. I don't like things in my ears. And right away as I put them in, I realized automatically that the quality is not as high as if I were using, real headphones. In fact, let me see something real quick. Where are those headphones? Where did they go? Oh, here they are. These are the headphones that I use when I'm mixing my program. This is what they are. I got them when I was up in Pennsylvania last summer. I think I got them at Sam's Club or Costco, one of those things, and I love them. They're not cheap. They're like $80, $90, something like that, but they're fantastic. This is what I use. So, and they're great. That's what I use to mix the program on. So there you go. I just wanted to talk about the audio. Of course, everybody's going to listen to this or watch this later on YouTube or whatever, and I'm sure I'll get some messages about it. But I just wanted to cover that, all right, being that it was a discussion in the group tonight. Let's just get through the business stuff, then I'm going to start taking some questions from people. Want to show you something. How's this right here? I got this today. Got a bunch of these today. I'm going to be shipping them out to my guests. Guests, of course, get them for free. And some people who are contributors on Patreon and PayPal get some for free as well. But I got a batch of these in today. Actually, I shipped one off. Mandy is in here somewhere in the group. She's getting one of these sometimes probably the beginning of next week, along with Volume 1. So here you go. There they are, Volume 1, Volume 2. Working on Volume 3. It's going to have like a light blue cover. So this is what we got going on right there. And like I said, so you want to check these out. These are available. You can contact me personally if you'd like me to sign one and send it to you. Or you can just go right to Amazon and buy either of these books in Amazon in print or ebook form. So I have to tell you, and I'm not here to pat myself on the back, but when I look at these books, they are such high quality. Even though this one got a bad review from somebody this past weekend saying that the interview I did with Tad Tobias was a bore. That's true. That's fine. They're high quality books. I can't tell you. Amazon CreateSpace does a fantastic job with these books. Fantastic job. I get that. I'm like, wow, these are really nice. So you want to check those out. So they now are available. Let me do something here real quick. Just bear with me for a second. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments. I was on True Crime. Your came up in great reviews. They look amazing. Andrew said, I definitely want to sign volume 2. All right, Andrew, you're going to get one. Stephanie, I was on Amazon last night looking at true crime books, and yours came up and had great reviews. Cool that yours popped up. Yeah, it's nice. If you've downloaded or bought, of course, the ebook or the print edition of volume 2, it does need some reviews. It just does. So if you've gotten it, you're allowed to go review it. Please do. Volume 1 has gotten spectacular reviews. I cannot thank all of you enough. Thank you very much. So there you go. Other business stuff, the T-shirts. You saw how I started there. You see that down there? There you go, right there. That's a T-shirt on the back of this chair. I know that many of you, if not most of all of you, are in the group. And you know that I've been shipping out shirts to some of the guests. I've been taking what size they want, what color they want, their address, and been shipping out. I'm slowly going down the list. So if you haven't heard from me yet and you were a guest on the program, don't worry. I'm going to get to you. Don't worry about it. You're going to get one for free from me. No problem. It's going to happen. But for the rest of you who aren't guests, I urge you to go to unfound-podcast.myshopify.com and order one, because I can tell you that it is you ordering, whether it's even if it's just $2 a month for Patreon or PayPal, you are the people, you listeners are the ones that make all of this possible. Okay. In fact, it's going to be noted in this Friday's program in the news section. I'm going to talk about this very shortly. That it's not me doing this. Yes, I'm the one designing the shirts and everything, but it's your contributions to the program that makes it possible that I can create these shirts and print these books out and get them to these people who it means so much to them. Okay, I'm not taking vacations to Tahiti. I'm driving a Hyundai. On and on. I live in this little apartment. It's not like it's going directly in my bank account. It's not. It's not. These contributions on Patreon and PayPal and some other things go back to these guests with the shirts, like I said, with the books. And I want you to remember that. I really, really do. Even this computer, part of it did come from contributions. That now with this laptop that I'm talking on now, I want to be able to go see guests in person. This laptop is going to allow me to interview them face to face. Maybe I'll do some interviews in person. Having this is going to make that possible. All right, that's better quality. That's higher quality for myself, for the program, for the guests. All these contributions and support that I've gotten for the show, it all goes back into the program. Whether, once again, for the guests or some things here and there that make the show easier to do or better to do and raises the quality where it can reach more people. Okay? So I just want you to all know I cannot thank you all enough. All of you have contributed so far to make this possible. I deeply appreciate it. And I can tell you the guests deeply appreciate it as well. So we got the T-shirts. I already talked about Patreon, PayPal, the playing cards, still working on those. Really haven't been publicizing all those yet because I don't have them all done yet. When I get them all done, I think we'll be talking about those a little bit more. So you should know, going back to the T-shirts very quickly, they're also, if you've gotten a book and they're high quality, the T-shirts themselves, the guests have been very, and I know Andrea's gotten a shirt. I've sent out a couple of shirts. The quality of the shirts, everybody's been very, very pleased. Okay, and I was a little worried about that early on, but it doesn't. I think that T-Launch is getting everything together, and they're very nice quality. I realize they're a little pricier than others, but because it's both printed on front and back, that's the reason. If it was just a logo on the front, then they would be cheaper. That's just a fact. I don't mind telling you that. But logo on the front, high quality picture with information on the back. Those are what the shirts are. So there you go. Got the business out of the way. Let's go to some questions. And being that I see Michelle, Michelle, I'm going to take your question first. Okay, so I know you said thank you in there. I want to make sure I get to you first, being that you were a guest on Unfound with your sister, Nikki. You asked me, going back to Nikki's, this is for all the rest of you, Nikki McCown's disappearance that we covered last year. I think it was in September of 2017. You asked me if I thought that Tommy did it, Michelle. I think that at this point, you have to keep your options open. I think that Tommy, as well as Nikki's fiance, Bobby, and Bobby's ex, I'm going to stand by what I said back when the episode happened. And I think that I wrote you an email with some things that you could do regarding that. I continue to keep my options open. I think that Tommy Swint is a very good suspect, very possible suspect in your sister's disappearance. But being that he's not with us anymore, it's tough to talk to him. So you need to at least look into Bobby and maybe Bobby's ex somehow, private investigator or whatever, and at least rule them out. I think that if you could rule out Bobby and rule out his ex, then Tommy becomes almost the 100% suspect. But until you can rule those other people out, and being that you can talk to them, somebody can go see them, everything, until that is the case, there's always going to be question marks. So I think at this point you should be trying, once again, with a private investigator or whatever, to rule those people out. Yeah. Emily says, I think Tommy did it. I'd be surprised if the fiance did it. I agree. I agree, but there's just some questions here that I think that you can clear up maybe within the next year, and then you'll know. And if, but I just think that there's, for the people who are still with us and living, there's still questions that can be asked of them. I guess that's what I'm saying. So it should not be so much as trying to prove who did it right now, but trying to prove who didn't do it. Kind of narrowing it down. Just an opinion. But I thank you for the question. Michelle, as always, you can contact me anytime. Anytime. Let's go to the top of the list. And Jeremiah asked me this question tonight. He was the first person to get a question in. There are too many podcasts, too many true crime podcasts out there. And you think that hurts the overall quality? When it comes to missing persons cases, I actually don't think there are enough podcasts. Podcasts that are devoted to missing persons cases. The only two programs I can think of that actually interview family members, and I personally believe that's the best way to cover these cases, is myself and Marissa over the Vanished. I believe those are the only two. Now, I know that Generation Y, Roseanne Sinclair with California Dreaming, they cover missing person cases once in a while. But in the genre of missing persons cases alone, I think that there could be more. There could be more. I don't necessarily, I would not mind other people getting involved, as long as it's, they're high quality programs. If they're programs that are just, I don't know, not being done well and, or don't have the proper tone, how much tone is important to me. I think there's a certain amount of seriousness that should be, that should be used when covering these cases. As long as all those things are done, then, I think that the market is still growing. I think the issue that Unfound is trying to overcome, and as you know, I've talked about this, it's moving is moving outside the world of podcasting. So I don't know if it's so much that we need more true crime podcasts or missing person podcasts. Maybe you do, but it's showing that we can move outside of that, because podcasting is such a small part of all news/entertainment venues in the world. And that's what Unfound, that's what I'm trying to do with my business partner. Her name is Shay. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move outside of that. And I think that that will be good for everybody. But I think to answer Jeremiah's question, I don't think there are too many podcasts. I think there could be more. But once again, it depends on the quality. Just because digital cameras came out at the beginning of the 2000s doesn't mean filmmaking got better. It just meant more people were going to do it, and it really just meant more bad films, frankly. So it has to do with the person, how serious you take it, how much work you put into it. But my concern at this point is moving Unfound outside of podcasting. And I think that should be what all podcasters are trying to do. Shaney says Trace Evidence is also a missing person podcast, right? But I'm not sure that he does interviews, right? I don't know him personally. Maybe he does. Shanna, I agree. There's definitely there's so many cases that need more exposure. I suggest more missing persons podcasts that focus on specific reasons. Okay. Shanna, I love that idea. The Fall Line is a good version of Regional Missing Persons podcast. Okay. People can check that out. Yes, I mean, unfortunately, there is no lack of cases. I guess that's the bad part of this. Thousands and thousands of cases. CharlieProject.org has 9,800 cases on them. I could probably do a case, for the rest of my life, and probably if I live to be 80, I don't know how that all works out math-wise. Would I get to 9,800 cases? I don't know. Can't do that in my head very quickly. So I hope that answers Jeremiah's question. Christina, I know she's in here somewhere. She asked me about the Tiffany Daniels case from last week. She asked me if the phone, computer, and things were checked. Christina, I'm glad you asked me that because I'm meaning to post this in the group. I didn't talk to him on the phone. He and I had an email exchange back and forth with Kenneth Maines from ASOC. You know who he is. I've talked about him. He just retired recently, by the way. So he's a full-time private investigator and working for ASOC now, which is great. But I asked him about these burner phones and pay-as-you-go phones, and he's had, over his police career, he had huge problems with them trying to get any information from them. I just wanted to verify, being that was a conversation that came up last week, I talked to him, and that's what he said. And so it is true. When somebody has one of those pay-as-you-go phones, virtually the police or anybody else cannot get the information. That's what Kenneth Maines, and he was a detective long enough to retire. So 20-some years, I'm guessing. So that should tell you, Christina, that answers part of it. Tiffany had a pay-as-you-go phone, and no information could be gotten from it. In fact, I think we talked in the episode, she had run out of minutes and hadn't used her phone in days. Her computer was checked, and I think we had this in the interview, that she had come home and she was doing roommate. She was going, her computer, her computer. She was, before she disappeared, she was checking roommate sites. She was, of course, trying to find roommates. That's what she was doing. That was her last actions on the computer that she owned. Okay? I don't think she had a tablet. I know she had a computer that's, Cindy only mentioned a computer. So that's about all we know regarding that. Of course, the phone couldn't be tracked. She wasn't using it. Even if it was pay-as-you-go and she had it, she wasn't paying it. She didn't have any minutes, so there's nothing to do there. And her computer work was simply roommate stuff. Shaney says, why can't they get info from the pay-as-you-go? Not sure about that, Shaney. Kenneth was not that specific with me about this. He did not give me that. But these pay-as-you-go phones, otherwise known as burner phones, are what drug dealers use, so they know that they can't be traced. I think part of the reason that you can't get any info for them is I think the way it works is these pay-as-you-go places buy time on other networks. They buy time on T-Mobile's network, Verizon, all the big cell phone companies. And I think that may be part of the reason you can't get any info on them. I think. Mary Lynn says, hearing from the families is more informative. I would give them some comfort knowing people do care. Mary, thank you. Thank you. Christine, I thought I remember saying she had a tablet and that it was that laptop in the car. Christina, Cindy is in the group. If you want to contact her and, post something, she can probably respond to you. I don't want to speak for her. I got a lot of information up in this head. I do remember us talking about the computers, and the only thing that she said was that Tiffany had been trying to find roommates. That was the last thing she did. You are more than welcome to ask her that in the group and to clarify that, and I hope that you do. Mary, because you don't have to register in your name with the pay-as-you-go. That's right, Mary. You don't have to register as you pay-as-you-go phone. Yes, that's probably it too. So we're certainly fleshing that out. So, Christine, I hope that answered your question. I'm trying to answer it, but I'm sure Cindy, who is in the group, would welcome you, asking those questions. And Cindy's working very hard on her daughter's case. Lori asks, we're going to just keep going down these questions. That's fine. I can do this all night. How did I get into podcasting? Lori asks. I have a public speaking background. I have some acting experience. I have some improv experience. Some of you know that I worked at Star Trek The Experience in Las Vegas, so there's that part of it. Talking to people, acting and reacting. There's that part. But I've always been interested in mysteries. I believe that my mind is very good with information. I'm not very good at managing people. I sometimes have problems managing people's all needs and wants and things in a group. I can admit that. I'm very good one-on-one, though. But I'm very good with information. And so I think that this type of program is good for my personality, who I think I am. And I've said it last week, Unfound is a representation of who I am. I do the program the way that I think it should be done, that goes to my strengths, asking questions, dealing with information. But also Lori, if she's in here, I don't know if she is or not, but she can watch on YouTube later. I haven't had anybody in my family who's disappeared. Nobody's been murdered. The fact is that most of the people in my family live to a ripe old age. And so there is a part of me that, wonders, well, what would that happen if, what if that happened in my family? What if, I don't have any children, but what if one of my parents disappeared? Who's going to be there for me? Who's going to be there? So that goes through my head as well, and sometimes I say this, but in some of these guests who are watching tonight, they know that I'm more than just a reporter. We flesh out ideas. We have some brainstorming sessions, and sometimes they just need somebody to talk to, and I do that as well. And it's all off the record. The only thing that ever goes on record with my guests are the interviews that you hear for the episode. So that's how I got into it. It's a variety of things put together. And really, when I got into true crime podcasting, I frankly didn't even know the true crime. I pretty much didn't know how big it is, and how many programs are out there. I didn't even know that. Let's go to the next question, and this is from I call her my assistant, Emily, and I know she's in here. Let me do something here for a second. Okay. Emily asked me, is there any of these episodes that we've done, and you should know who Emily is. She helps me get quite a few of the guests that you hear on the program. I get guests from a variety of venues. Mary Lyle, Suzanne Lyle's mother, has sent me some. Megan Good has directed some people to me, and I found some people on my own, but Emily does a lot of work behind the scenes contacting people, and she does a great job of it. I think that I really, really, here she is. There she is. There's Emily. There are you with a big smile. Okay. But she has been so good. And I tried to give her on the program kudos when I can. But she asked me, are there any cases that we've covered on Unfound that where I believe the law enforcement covered things up? Well, I can think of one right off the top of my head, and that was Robin Abrams' case, where I think that multiple police officers are involved in her disappearance. You know, Tony Marquez was a cop. He eventually got kicked out, but he was a cop at the time. There were cops that reacted against Robin because she was filing a sexual harassment suit against them, and I think that's what brought about her disappearance. So that's a case that comes directly to mind. I'm going to say that there are probably at least a couple others, but it's probably not, yeah, Lavonda. Oh, boy, I could tell you a few. I can only talk about the cases that I've covered, unfortunately, Lavonda. I'm sure that you could. I'm sure, and I unfortunately can't think of every case that Unfound is covered off the top of my head. There are probably a couple others. Maybe recently in the Rebecca Henderson Polk case where that sheriff was letting the prisoner out of jail. Is there something involved there? Because the prisoner knew Johnny Passa, who knew Rebecca. Was something going on with the police there? Possibility. I don't know. I have to tell you that a lot of guests, have suspicions. And Tommy, right, Tommy Swinton was a cop. Michelle, thank you for reminding me of that. That's right. He was a cop who we were just talking about Nikki McCown's case just 10 minutes ago. So, yes, I guess the answer would be yes. I think there are cases that we've covered where the police have covered some things up, Emily. Yeah. But then you followed up with, do I ever worried about being targeted, being the kind of program that we do and how we talk so frankly about this? Do I think about it? I think that I know Stephanie's in here and Andrea's in here, so I'm going to have to say this. I just keep my head on a swivel. I'm always looking out. I'm a fairly aware guy. I'm not, could I say, I'm not going to get into that. But I just try to be aware. I'm a very private person. I just stay at home doing this program and other things. I go play disc golf. I don't get into any trouble. I've never been that type of person. But I suppose some of these people that we've covered on Unfound that kind of we've called out, I suppose they could find me. I really don't. I really don't think about it that much. I just try to be aware. And I'm a pretty smart guy. So it's kind of difficult to fool me or lure me anywhere. So, but I have a responsibility to do this program, so that's the way I do it. Andrea, haha, yes, I was waiting for that. Yeah, I knew you were, Andrea. I knew it. Stephanie asked, if you have the time, is there a police department that you hear a lot that does a good job handling missing persons cases? You know the one, Stephanie, I think that's a fair question. If we're going to talk about some policemen being crooked or corrupt or putting things under the rug, then, a case that still sticks out in my mind is Regina Marie Bosses from Lincoln, Nebraska, where I had her sister Janelle on. She spoke very well of the Lincoln Police Department and what they were trying to do regarding her sister's case. And Janelle is very involved in the missing persons community. Since her sister disappeared, she would know. And she had nice things to say about them. So that's one that comes off the top of my head. The police are put in a very difficult position. I think that too many times families think that they're corrupt because things aren't getting done. The problem the police have, and this is a problem that I don't know how you're ever going to figure this out, is you can't distinguish between a missing person who is gone for good and a missing person who is going to come back. And police departments are limited by resources and money and man hours and overtime, just like any private business. And taxpayers and public officials and town councils start getting worried, where if somebody goes missing, suddenly there are helicopters and dogs and police working overtime, and then the person comes back 2 days later. And not because of any of that. And that's what I think is the tough part, police. It's like they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Now, they should do, but you can also understand that how crazy it would be eventually, not the first time or the second time, but say the 20th time, that somebody goes missing somewhere in a jurisdiction and they call out and the person ends up showing up 2 days later. Oh, I went on a bender and went to Las Vegas for a couple days. You can see after a while how the police would say, you know what, it's not worth doing any of this. And that's what's happened. That's what we're living through right now. All right? And, I know that there are cops who are cold. I know they can be dismissive and everything else, but a lot of that comes from their prior experience. Dealing with missing people where a parent says, my daughter's never coming back, she's never coming back, this happened, and then her daughter shows up 2 days later. Perfectly fine. She ran off with her boyfriend. She came back perfectly fine. It's tough. It's tough. And I do not, relish the position that they are in, but it's tough. That's all I can say. It puts the missing persons cases, puts them in a very difficult position. The problem I have personally is when, even after a week, they're not doing much, or after 10 days, they're still saying the person, you get to that point, person probably isn't coming back. All right. And I have plenty of those stories as well. So it's just a difficult position, but their attitude, the police attitude, is, I think, from years of experience of knowing how many people do come back and they're alive. So there's that. But as far as Ellie and me being targeted, I really don't think about that. So I answered that. Social media, Mike. I know Mike's in here. I got to your question finally. Thank you for being patient, Mike. Got a lot of questions before I started this program. And Lavonda, before I get to that, Lavonda, and that's where nonprofit organizations like the one I belong to, Bridging the Gap, Searching a Support Team, comes in. Great, Lavonda, great, spectacular. A bridge between law enforcement and the family so families don't feel abandoned. Great. Lavonda, sounds great to me. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. Mike, no problem. Social media, I think social media has helped, Mike. I think that it's a net positive, probably not as much as we'd like, though, simply because social media, what's the Mark Twain saying? That a lie can run around the world, before the truth ever gets its pants on. That's kind of the way I feel sometimes with true crime cases. Rumors spread, social media, it's just like a wildfire. Facebook and the rest of them. As much as I use this program, I love communicating with all of you, but social media and everything else is only good as the people using it. So if you are a person who likes to create rumors and sees a conspiracy behind every door or anything, then probably social media, Mike, is not the best thing. But for the rest of us, like Mike, I know you're a good guy. We're all good people here. For us, it is a good thing. But we just have to watch, what we take as the truth and what isn't the truth. You're great. I mean, we know all the pages that are in here for missing people. And it's great. But it would be better if some people didn't like the drama of it and love cooking up conspiracies, for their own uses, as we know, human nature sometimes is pretty ugly sometimes. And you want to do that, with other things, I guess, but that's going to happen. But when it comes to people who have gone missing and their families and everything, it is just beyond disgusting what some people do and say. We've talked about scammers. We've talked about psychics. Of course, I don't believe in them. Cindy Daniels last week talked about how they've tried to scam her a couple times, ransom calls, everything. And, unfortunately with social media, that can bring about that type of stuff. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame and stuff. So it's a great way to get the word out. But we who are trying to do this the right way, we really have to watch out for those people who aren't doing it the right way and make sure the public knows who those liars are. All right. So I think that it's a net good, but I think we as good people, we have to remain vigilant in trying to get to the truth, the facts, the honesty in these cases, and not allow other people to get in the way of that. And social media is surely a way that they can do that. That's what I got for you. Emily, are there cases you've covered where you believe the person is actually still alive? There probably is, Emily. Probably. Let me get to these other things. I'll come back to that. Charlie, that's so heartbreaking. It is. Holly got in. All right, how are you tonight, Holly? You got in a little late. Perfectly fine. You can if you want to catch it on YouTube later, that's fine too. Thank you for getting in and watching tonight. Thank you. The criminals, the ones that know they harmed one and watch your page, they do. Michelle, you're probably right. The people who commit crimes, they want to keep a tab on, if anybody knows anything. And you're right, Michelle. So social media, that's a good point you bring up, Michelle, that sometimes social media probably might put too much out there, and probably, maybe giving the criminals a heads up, which isn't what we want to do, and I try not to do that on Unfound, but social media could do that. And I think you bring up a great point, something I didn't think of, Michelle. Thank you. Holly, you don't need to apologize to me. You don't need to apologize. That you're here is great. Don't worry about that. So those were the questions I got. We're at 9:52. Let's talk about this week's case. I had some other things lined up, but we've gone almost an hour. And I don't want to get too crazy with the length of these programs at this point. I think an hour, I love answering your questions. That's the favorite part probably. As long as I get to do that and then talk about this week's case, I'm happy with how one of these Facebook Lives comes out. The disappearance this week is of Nicholas Maschuci, not a very well-known case. I got this case from Megan Good. She contacted me, and I'm going to be interviewing Nicholas's daughter, Fran, who I've gotten to know very well. Fran contacted Megan. Megan contacted me, and now I interviewed Fran. I don't know. It's a while ago now. We built up some interviews here. But Fran is her father disappeared in Kearney, New Jersey, on September 18th, 1974. The title of the episode is called Close to Home. There's two meanings regarding this. What you're going to find out is that there is and we're going to talk about it in the episode, there's an obvious person who is a pretty glaring suspect. I'm not saying that this guy did it, but his actions were somewhat a little strange, and they were strange before Nicholas disappeared, and they were strange after he disappeared. And it's a person that's very close to the Maschuci family, as in fact, in the Maschuci family. But that's not the end of that. Nicholas Maschuci, I think, was a good family man. I think that he was a good father. I think that he was a good husband. It's obvious, you're going to hear in the episode, it's obvious that he and Fran had a very close relationship. She was 15 when he disappeared. They were very close. But I'm thinking, on the other hand, Nicholas, he might have been connected a little bit. He was into restaurants and nightclubs, and Fran is going to admit at the episode he had a bookmaking operation, so you'll have to decide for yourself, if he was involved in the mob or mafia. I don't think I think what I'm saying here is that He was a businessman. He's well known. He's doing well for himself. Might have had some suspicious characters who were friends of his, who might have wanted to off him to get their hands on his businesses. That's something you're going to have to consider. You're going to also have to consider if somebody within the Maschuci family caused Nicholas to disappear. But the reason this episode is also called Close to Home is because my family is at least a little bit connected to this disappearance. Yes, really. That's true. That's true. I don't want to go into it right at the second. I want it to be a little bit of a surprise for all of you. But we talk about it during the interview, and I'm going to talk about it more. You'll hear it in my summary after the interview that in a weird set of circumstances, it turns out that somebody in my family, I'm not saying this member of my family was guilty or anything, I'm not saying that, but I really wish this member of my family was still alive so I could ask him some questions about one of the suspects. Let's just put it that way. Because he and one of the suspects were very, very close. So, and it was a weird thing when, I discovered that, in doing my research. After I talked to Fran the first time, I looked the person up, and I found out that this suspect he was very good friends with a family member of mine. So Fran and I had a good chuckle about that, but then we started to look at that and what does it mean and everything. So that's why this case also is called Close to Home, because this disappearance, even though it happened in 1974 when I just turned 4 years old, hits very close to home for me because of a family member who knew a suspect. And this completely coincidental, but you're going to hear about it all on Friday. It's the disappearance of Nicholas Maschuci. Once again, not a case that's very well known. In fact, if you go to charlieproject.org right now, there's really not that long of a write-up regarding Nicholas's disappearance. Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to know. And this is just another example of how you can go somewhere and there's just a little paragraph about a disappearance. But then when you start talking to somebody, a family member, someone, you find out there's a lot of facts. And I love doing that. I love bringing a story like a case like Nicholas Maschuci to all of you because it's something you probably haven't heard of before. You know, Nicholas Maschuci deserves to be as well known as Maura Murray, Jennifer Kessie, Brian Schaefer, and the rest of them. And I'm happy to do that on Unfound. Fran, his daughter, did a great interview. She's very well spoken, right to the point, was very prepared. And in fact, I just talked to her. When was it? Yesterday, I think I talked to her. So that's the disappearance. The disappearance of Nicholas Maschuci is called Close to Home. I hope you'll check it out. Did I know the connection? No, I did not. Holly, I did not know the connection. It wasn't until I talked to Fran the first time that I started looking some things up and a name of my family member popped up. That was a moment. That happened 2 weeks ago, something like that, when I was starting that. No, I did not know that it was going to be connected to my family. Like I said, this family member is deceased now. He's been deceased for about 14 years, but I really do wish he was alive because I think he might have be like 85 now or something. But I think that he would probably be able to help with his case. I think. I really believe that. But he's been gone for a while now. So you can all think about that. I will surely do more explanation. You'll hear it on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern in the United States. I really don't have any more. We're not going to do news. It's once again, we've already gone about an hour. But we talked about audio issues. If you ever have any, come to me. Talked about my new computer, which has worked fabulous tonight. Did the business. Talked about 1 and 2, right here. Let's show those right here again. Let me see if I can do this. Right here. If you'd like one, please, with my signature in it, please contact me personally, or you can go right to Amazon. That's fine too. The T-shirts, giving them out to the guests, always because of your contributions and support for Unfound. I can't thank you enough. Talked about the playing cards, which really haven't been talking about too much. Still working on those. Excuse me. We also talked about Patreon and PayPal and how those proceeds go to helping these families with books and these T-shirts and things I send them. Took all of your questions. Were fantastic tonight. I love that. And then finally, I talked about the disappearance of Nicholas Maschuci and how it's kind of a little bit connected to a person in my family. So that's it. That's all we got. It's been about an hour. I thank you all for tuning in once again. My favorite time of the week. Being able to take your questions, interact with all of you, you taking time out of your Wednesday evening or night to watch. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your comments and everything. And you will hear me on Friday. Oh, one more thing. The next Unfound newsletter is going to be coming out in the next couple days too. So look for that if you're on the mailing list. With that, I'm going to leave you all. All of you have a great night. And thank you for tuning in. And that concludes Unfound Live on Facebook. Good night.